8 things you worried about all your life, until one day you realize they no longer mattered. As we move through the years of life, something strange happens. The very things that once kept us up at night suddenly lose their weight. Not because we gave up, but because we've walked far enough to understand what truly deserves our time, energy, and peace. There's a quiet kind of wisdom that only comes with age. It can't be learned from books or borrowed from advice. It arrives only after you've lived fully, loved deeply, and hurt honestly. In today's video, we'll explore 8 things that after turning 70, you can finally set down, like removing a heavy backpack after a long, winding journey. These aren't abstract ideas. They are truths, backed by real experience, psychology, and the voices of millions of older adults around the world. If you've ever felt like you needed to keep up, to hold on, to keep pushing for reasons you couldn't even name, this video is for you. Not because you've stopped caring, but because you become wise enough to know what's no longer worth worrying about. And this kind of letting go, it isn't indifference, it's clarity. When you realize what no longer needs your energy, you make space for what truly does: health, meaning, connection, and peace. If you've ever wondered when life starts to feel lighter, it's not when the weight disappears, but when you learn to carry it differently, more simply, more quietly. These 8 things might not just make you feel understood. They may help you live the rest of your life freer, steadier, and with a little less to carry. Let's begin with the first one: the fear of the future, the silent thief of the present. After we've let go of the need to please others, after we've stepped away from society's definitions of success, we think we've finally found peace with ourselves. But then, quietly and subtly, a new fear begins to slip into our thoughts. The fear of what might come next. It doesn't shout, it doesn't scream, but it shows up in the quietest moments. It's there when you wake too early, unsure of what to do with the day. It's there when you hear that an old friend slipped and fell in the bathroom. It's there when you forget a name that once came as easily as breathing. Mr. Matthew, 76, lives alone in Flagstaff, Arizona, where the mountains glow red at sunset. He used to fix things around the house. He loved hiking, tinkering, and reading, but in recent years, those moments have become fewer. Not because he stopped enjoying them, but because a new kind of question began to visit him. Questions with no easy answers. What if one day I forget how to drive? What if I fall and no one finds me? What if I live too long and everyone else is gone? Each morning he brews tea, but doesn't drink it right away. Each night he leaves the bedside lamp a little brighter than needed, just to feel like there's still light, in case things go dark. Then one spring afternoon, with golden sunlight stretching across the porch, he sat by the window, a cooling cup of tea in hand, and asked himself, am I wasting today's quiet peace just because I'm afraid of a tomorrow that hasn't even come yet? The answer didn't come in words, it came in action. He stepped outside, sat in his wicker chair, sipped his tea, and for the first time in years, he chose to stay with the present, because the future isn't held in fear. It's held in what you do with this moment. Right now, you are still breathing, still feeling, and that is a beautiful place to begin. According to a 20-year study from the University of California, Berkeley, over 60% of older adults experience what psychologists call anticipatory anxiety, the fear of an uncertain future, often triggered by seeing others around them weaken or noticing changes in their own bodies. But here's the hopeful part. Older adults who stay engaged in purposeful daily activities, writing letters by hand, calling family, learning something new, or tending to plants, show a 46% lower rate of anxiety compared to those who remain passive. And no, it doesn't mean you need to do something big. Sometimes peace begins with something as small as tidying one corner of the house, brewing a fragrant cup of tea, opening the window to greet the morning air. You don't need to know for sure what tomorrow holds. You just need the steadiness to meet it, with the quiet confidence that you showed up fully today. What about you? Have you ever let the fear of the future steal the joy of your present moment? What are you doing each day to stay connected? To life, to light, to tea, and to yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your story might just be the light someone else needs to see. And if this message brought a sense of calm to your heart, click like to let me know you felt it too. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so that every week we can meet again and listen together to the quieter rhythm of life. And once fear begins to fade, another weight often takes its place, one that creeps in even more silently, the habit of comparing your life to someone else's. That is burden number 2, comparing your life to others. The sweet silent trap. Once the fear of the future begins to fade, many older adults find themselves caught in a different kind of trap, a quiet, deceptively sweet one. The habit of comparing their lives to others. It doesn't come from bitterness. In fact, it often starts in the gentlest of ways. A photo of a family reunion on social media, a friend's story about a trip to Europe, a phone call from a relative sharing how successful their grandkids have become. And in a very human moment, you glance at your own life and wonder, am I missing something? Mrs. Linda Chavez, 75, lives alone in El Paso, Texas. She never married, has no children, and spends her days in a small home with a lavender garden blooming in the backyard. Each morning she brews her coffee, reads on her front porch, and greets her neighbors with warm eyes and gentle smiles. But she also has a nightly habit. She scrolls Facebook for about 20 minutes before bed. And during those quiet nights, something inside her begins to shrink. She sees friends posting photos from Europe, celebrating birthdays with grandchildren, hosting dinner parties full of laughter and clinking glasses. No one says it out loud, but still, she feels like she's missing something. The lavender doesn't smell as sweet. Her wicker chair feels a little more empty. Even the birdsong seems quieter. Then one morning, with sunlight pouring into her kitchen, Linda put her phone down and stepped into her backyard. She sat in the middle of the garden and listened quietly to the breeze brushing through the leaves. A bright orange butterfly landed softly on her hand. She let out a quiet laugh, not for anyone, not for a camera, but for herself. In that moment, she remembered she was living a life she had chosen, and somehow she still loved it. According to researchers at Stanford University, older adults who use social media without guidance are more likely to feel dissatisfied with their lives. Even unintentional comparisons can chip away at our sense of meaning, especially when paired with loneliness or a lack of someone to truly confide in. But here's the hopeful part. The same study found that when seniors engage in small, meaningful personal routines, like tending a garden, writing by hand, or calling a friend just to say hello, they report significantly higher levels of happiness and purpose, regardless of how others are living. There is no single measure of a good life. Not everyone needs a house full of people, grandchildren around the table, or perfect photos online to prove they are happy. Some people find joy in a child's laughter, some in the scent of earth after rain, and some, like Linda, find it in sunlight and birdsong. You don't need to live like anyone else. You just need to live in a way that feels right for you. Your life, with all its quiet, ordinary, beautiful pieces, might be someone else's dream. You are not lacking. You may only need to look again, with grateful eyes and a weathered, loving heart. And what about you? Have you ever seen someone else's life and felt left behind? If so, what helped you return to yourself? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes your voice may be the gentle reminder someone else needs, not just to stay connected, but to continue this slow healing journey, one step at a time, one day at a time. Because once you stop measuring your life against others, something beautiful begins to happen. You start to live lighter, no longer rushing to meet expectations, and that leads us to what we'll explore next. 3. Chasing society's timelines, the heavy weight of the right time. Even after you stop comparing your life to others, there's another kind of comparison that often lingers. It doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the invisible milestone society planted in your heart long ago. You know the ones, you're still not married at your age? You're learning to paint now? Why take up dancing in your 70s? These questions may sound harmless, but over time they become small stones, building a silent wall called, you must do everything at the right time. Mr. Eugene Harper, 82, lives in Asheville, North Carolina, a small mountain town full of artists and old trees. He spent his entire career as a mechanical engineer, surrounded by blueprints, machines, and precision. But ever since his youth, he had one quiet dream he never followed. He wanted to learn how to dance. He used to pause by a shop window where shiny dance shoes sat waiting behind the glass. He'd watch couples swaying gently under warm yellow lights at the community center down the street. But every time he'd tell himself, not yet. It's not the right time. At 40, he was busy raising kids. At 60, retirement kept him occupied. At 70, he thought he was too old. Then at 81, he watched a dance video that popped up on his screen, and he laughed softly to himself. Not for anyone, just because he realized, if not now, then when? The next week, he signed up for a local community dance class, and now every Saturday morning he shows up, shoes slightly too loose, smile brighter than ever. He doesn't need to dance well, he just needs to feel his body moving, and to feel again that he's alive, Did you know that according to Eric Erikson, the renowned psychologist who studied human development, the final stage of life is not about slowing down. It's about feeling complete. The sense that your life, even if imperfect, was still worth living. And according to a Gallup Institute survey, the number one regret among older adults is not failure, but never doing the things they loved because they believed they were too late. But you are not late. You're right on time. There's no set schedule for living a meaningful life. Love can arrive at 60. You can start writing your memoir at 75. Learn to play the piano at 80. Join a choir at 85. Or simply let yourself laugh loudly, wear bright colors, or make new friends whenever you want. As long as your heart is still open, every door still leads somewhere beautiful. And if someone ever tells you you're too old for that, smile and remember, they're not living your life. You are. You choose. And you have the right to begin whenever you are ready. Have you ever held yourself back thinking, I'm too old for this? What's something your heart longs to do, but you haven't dared yet? Share it in the comments below. Your story might be the gentle push someone else needs to step out from the sidelines of their own life. So we can keep meeting here, telling stories that age can never limit. Because when you start living by your own rhythm, no longer chasing the world's timeline, you'll begin to notice something even deeper. Old wounds, old resentments, they're no longer worth carrying either. And that's exactly where we'll go next. 4. Holding on to grudges. The silent weight on the soul. Some burdens don't show up in words or actions, yet they sit heavy on the heart for decades. Old wounds left unhealed, arguments left unresolved, apologies never spoken, and the words, I forgive you, that were never said out loud. For many people, holding on to resentment once felt like protection, but over time, it quietly becomes a weight that drains your spirit, often without you even knowing it. Yvonne Kim, 79, once lived in Sacramento, California. As the eldest of 5 siblings, she was always the responsible one, the caretaker, the glue that held things together. Nearly 30 years ago, after a painful financial crisis in the family, she had a fierce argument with her youngest brother, the one she had always loved most. They hadn't spoken since. Every holiday became a dance of avoidance, every family gathering, a silent space no one dared to name. Yvonne would say she wasn't angry anymore. She was too tired to be angry, but deep down there was still something there, an unnamed ache that never quite faded. Then one day, after knee surgery, she spent 3 days in the hospital with no visitors. The first person to call her was her youngest brother. His voice on the phone was barely above a whisper. Sister, I heard late. I'm sorry. And Yvonne, the woman who had always been strong, independent, wept. That moment didn't erase the past, but it opened a door out of years of silence, a door back to the gentleness that once lived between them. Forgiveness doesn't change what happened, but it does change how you live with what happened. According to the Mayo Clinic, people who hold on to long-term anger and resentment have a higher risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, anxiety, and depression. Meanwhile, those who learn to forgive experience better sleep, less stress, and even longer lives. Forgiveness, experts say, doesn't have to include reconciliation. It can be something quiet, internal, and sacred. I choose not to let this control my heart anymore. Yvonne says that after that call, she didn't feel like she had won or lost the argument from years ago. She just felt light, like the first time she walked again without a cane. Light like a dreamless, peaceful sleep. Light like the exhale she had held inside her chest for decades. Are you still carrying a quiet anger? Is there something from the past that still tugs at your heart each time you remember it? Forgiveness doesn't mean denying the pain. It means saying, I deserve peace more than I deserve to stay hurt. Try writing a letter. You don't need to send it. Try making a phone call. You don't need to say sorry first. Try forgiving, not for anyone else, but because you deserve to sleep deeply without carrying any more weight than you have to. Have you ever let go of a grudge in your life? Or is there one you've wanted to release but didn't know how? Share your story in the comments below, because your words may be the quiet medicine someone else is searching for. And if this message helped your heart soften, click like to let me know you're here. And subscribe if you want to keep walking with me through the quiet practice of letting go, so we can live a little lighter, a little freer, a little more at peace each day. Because once you've learned to release what weighs you down inside, even your body begins to respond differently. It no longer tenses, no longer tries so hard to hold it together. And that leads us to the next truth, that sometimes to live well, you don't need to be strong all the time. That's what we'll explore next. 5. The pressure to prove your strength when pride hurts the body. Once we've learned to release old resentments, many people in their 70s find themselves facing a new challenge. One that comes not from the outside, but from within. It's not the pain in the joints, not the unhealed scars. It's the quiet pressure to pretend everything is still okay. This pressure doesn't shout. It whispers in moments when rest is needed. Don't be lazy. If you can do it, just do it. Old people shouldn't bother anyone. You're not weak enough to ask for help. Mr. Samuel Blake, 80, lives in Omaha, Nebraska. He used to be a home builder, so well known that no one in the area could match his skill in measuring, mixing cement, or cutting wood. To this day, he still wakes early. He cleans the yard, pushes the lawn cart, cooks his own breakfast. He never wanted to bother anyone, especially not his grandson, who lives just a few blocks away. He used to say, "If I can't take the trash out myself, I might as well stop living." Then one scorching summer afternoon, he tried to carry a heavy bag of garden soil from the garage to the yard. As he stepped down the porch stairs, his foot slipped. He fell. The bones didn't break, but the pain was enough to keep him on the ground. He lay there for nearly an hour, shirt soaked with sweat, chest heaving, and in that still moment he realized, sometimes the thing that hurts most isn't age, it's pride, misplaced. A week later, he called his grandson. He asked him to help change a light bulb, take out the trash on Wednesdays, and sometimes just pull weeds with him in the garden. The first time Samuel asked for help, he felt ashamed. The second time, he felt less so. By the third, he felt joy, and slowly the gap between them, once distant, buried in everyone's too busy, began to warm, with laughter, with tea, with a handshake that felt like the old days. Did you know that the American Heart Association, AHA, recommends regular physical activity for adults over 70, but at low to moderate intensity, and never to push beyond your safe limit just to prove something? Your body isn't asking to be impressive, it's asking to be respected, to be heard. Dr. Thomas Pearls, a geriatric specialist from Boston University, once said, "A healthy older adult isn't the one who does more than others. It's the one who knows when to stop and when to ask for help." Independence is precious, but taking care of yourself doesn't mean doing everything alone. Sometimes allowing others to help is not a burden. It's a gift to you and to them. A way for them to feel needed and to connect with you genuinely. You don't have to prove anything anymore. Not to anyone. Not even to yourself. What you've built, what you've given, what you've sacrificed, your past already speaks for itself. Now you deserve to slow down, to set your body down, and to smile at yourself without carrying the weight of expectation. Have you ever found yourself like Samuel, pushing too hard just to avoid feeling helpless? What helped you learn to listen to your body and honor its limits? Share that moment with us in the comments below, because your honesty might be the reminder someone else needs, that they don't have to carry it all alone anymore. If this story brought you a little peace, click like, subscribe, and stay with us, because on this journey we walk together, and no one is left behind. And when the body learns to rest at the right time, you may be surprised to find the mind becomes lighter too. At that point, the past no longer weighs you down like it used to. You can look back, not with tears, but with understanding. And that is what we'll gently explore next. 6. Regret over the past. When forgiving yourself is also an act of love. After learning to listen to your body and rest when needed, another lesson often begins to quietly knock on the door. Not from the outside, but from deep within memory, where time cannot erase what the heart still aches to understand. This is when regret begins to whisper. Those old if-only thoughts, once faded, suddenly return like a soft, sorrowful song on repeat. If only I had chosen differently. If only I had said I was sorry. If only I had spent more time with my family. Raymond Holloway, 81, lives in a small house on the outskirts of Rochester, New York. Each morning he sits by the window, looking out at the lake where he and his wife once rowed a boat in their younger days. She passed away over a decade ago. The children are grown, now living far away. He lives alone. But what makes him feel lonely isn't the absence of others. It's the presence of one decision he made over 40 years ago. Back then, Raymond was offered a job in Chicago. Great salary, clear path to promotion, but it meant uprooting his family, leaving behind his parents, and moving to a city they'd never known. He said no. He chose stability, chose to stay close to home. But for decades afterward, whenever money was tight, whenever an opportunity slipped away, that same question returned. Could I have given my family a better life if I'd been braver? And each time it echoed, he felt the weight of that one moment, as though it had robbed something from those he loved. Then one day, while cleaning out an old drawer, he found a letter his wife had written long ago. The ink had faded, but the final line was still clear. I don't need a rich life. I just want to be by your side and see you at peace. Raymond read it again and again, then gently folded the paper. And for the first time in years, he didn't blame himself anymore. He placed his hand on his chest, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Thank you." You see, forgiveness isn't just for other people. Sometimes the most important forgiveness is the one you offer yourself. For what you did when you didn't yet know better. For choices you made doing the best you could. For being human. According to Dr. Kristen Neff, a pioneer in the field of self-compassion, older adults who practice self-forgiveness report higher life satisfaction and stronger resilience when facing illness, grief, or aging. You can't go back and rewrite the past, but you can change how you carry it. Not as a stone weighing down your heart, but as a map, marked with the places that shaped who you are today. You made it through all of it. And here you are, still breathing, still learning, still alive, with time left to love yourself just a little more. What about you? Have you ever wrestled with something from the past? If so, what helped you begin to forgive yourself? Share your story in the comments below. It doesn't have to be perfect, just real. Because your truth may be the light someone else needs while walking through their own darkness. And if your heart feels a little lighter after this story, click like, subscribe, and continue this healing journey with me, where every small step forward truly matters. Because when you no longer live under the weight of regret, you begin to see the world with new eyes, eyes that are grateful for today, but no longer caught up in the race for anything superficial. And that is what we'll explore next. 7. Chasing trends. When living true matters more than staying up to date. After learning to forgive yourself, you may begin to see the world with gentler eyes. But right then, another challenge often appears quietly, the pressure to keep up. In a world that moves faster each day, where technology shifts by the hour and trends come and go with the wind, it's easy to feel that if you don't catch up, you'll be left behind. No one says it directly, but the message is everywhere. Ads for the latest phone, dating apps for seniors, flashy videos promising the secrets to thriving in retirement. You don't fully understand them, but you click anyway, afraid of falling behind. Bernadette McAllister, 77, was once an art teacher in Missoula, Montana. All her life, she adored colors, paintings, and slow, beautiful things. But after retirement, her daughter began nudging, "Mom, you should use a smartphone. It's easier. You should join a senior Zumba class online. You should learn Instagram so you won't feel left out." Bernadette smiled. She tried, and she got tired. One day, she spent hours just adjusting the volume on her phone. Another time, she joined an online yoga class, breathing deeply while also fumbling for the leave meeting button on Zoom. But she didn't say anything. She didn't want to seem outdated, resistant, or slow. Until one afternoon, while painting a landscape in her backyard, she saw her daughter secretly taking a photo through the window. That photo later got hundreds of likes online. But what touched Bernadette wasn't the reactions. It was one small comment underneath. "Your mom looks like someone who lives true to herself." That evening, she put her smartphone in a drawer, took out her old flip phone, wrote a letter to her best friend, ordered more watercolor paints, and hung her new painting on the wall. Not to sell, not to show off, just to remind herself she still loved what she loved. And she had every right to love it in her own way. According to a University of Michigan study, older adults reported 40% higher levels of stress and confusion when trying to adapt to technology that didn't suit their lifestyle. But when encouraged to choose tools and activities that match their own pace and preferences, their sense of satisfaction and authenticity increased significantly. You don't need the latest device. You don't need to jump into every trend just because they say you should. All you need is to know what makes you feel calm, what brings you quiet joy, what makes your moments meaningful. A paperback book may not be shared online, but it can heal in ways no screen ever could. An old outfit may not be trendy, but it may remind you that you're still yourself, still walking your own rhythm, not chasing anyone else's. You're not falling behind. You're simply living by your own heartbeat, a slower one, a deeper one, and maybe a far more beautiful one. What about you? Have you ever felt pressure to keep up with the trend? Was there something you let go of and felt freer afterward? Share your story in the comments below, because what you chose to release today may become the reason someone else chooses to live more honestly tomorrow. These quieter truths deserve to be heard, not because they shout, but because they're real. And once you stop trying to meet someone else's standard, you may find your heart opening wider to what truly matters. No longer distracted by the noise of what others think, you finally begin to hear your own voice, and that is where our final step begins. 8. Worrying about what others think. The smallest room is the one you build inside judgment. After you've let go of fear, comparison, expectations, anger, self-pressure, and regret, there's still one final weight that often lingers, more quietly, more persistently than all the rest. It's the fear of what others might think. Strangely, this fear doesn't fade with age. Sometimes it grows, especially when the world feels like it's racing ahead and you're no longer sure where you belong. Dolores Tron, 74, lives alone in Tacoma, Washington. After her husband passed away, she moved into a small home with a white picket fence and a quiet front yard. Since childhood, Dolores was taught a lady must always be proper. Older people must be respectable. Live in a way that earns you approval from neighbors and pride from your children. Those lessons stayed with her all her life, and they shaped everything. The colors she wore, the way she planted her flowers, even the way she held back her laughter when something truly made her smile. She lived in an invisible room, where every glance felt like a mirror reflecting judgment. She never allowed herself to be too much or too different, for fear someone might think she's too old to be doing that. Then one day, she stumbled upon a video of a senior folk dance group in Ireland. There in the middle was an elderly woman in a bright red skirt, white hair tucked with a flower, smiling like a girl in her 20s. Dolores laughed, not because the woman was unusual, but because deep down, she longed to be that free. The next morning, she wore the orange blouse she'd bought years ago but never dared to wear. She stepped into the yard, hands in the soil, planting strawberries, a plant her neighbors once told her was out of place for the neighborhood. When one of those neighbors passed by, she smiled brightly and waved, not out of politeness, but because for the first time in her life, she truly didn't care what they thought. According to research from the University of Chicago, older adults don't naturally worry less about judgment as they age, especially if they lack meaningful, positive social connection. But when they engage in supportive communities, like art clubs, community classes, or a circle of old friends, their confidence, life satisfaction, and sense of autonomy rise significantly. You have the right to wear what you love, to grow what brings you joy, to speak what's in your heart, to live in a way that makes you happy without asking permission. Other people's opinions are like wind. Your life is the house you live in every day. Do you want it filled with light, openness, and color, or trapped in a small room made of mirrors and imagined criticism? The truth is, people don't think about us as much as we think they do. And if they do think something, they'll forget it quickly. But you won't. You'll remember that stifled feeling. And you deserve to live freer than that. What about you? Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something you loved because you were afraid of being judged? Have you ever lived a little smaller just because someone was watching? Tell us in the comments, so we can continue this journey of letting go and begin living more fully. No apologies, no hiding, no permission needed. Because in the end, the only gaze worth holding on to after 70 is the light within your own heart. The one that keeps guiding you forward, whether anyone else is watching or not. If you've been carrying too much all your life, then after 70, it's your time to finally set it down. Gently, no rush, no need for permission. Just you, choosing to live lighter, deeper, and more honestly with yourself. We've just walked together through 8 things that so many of us have clung to as if they were part of who we are. The fear of the future, the quiet comparisons, the pressure to meet society's timeline, the unspoken resentments, the need to prove we're still strong, the regrets that never quite faded, the urge to keep up with every trend, and finally, the weight of other people's opinions. Each one of these may have been part of your story. They may even have helped shape your strength, but they may also be the reason why, deep down, you felt more tired than you ever admitted. And now, today, you get to choose differently. You get to choose to let go. Letting go isn't giving up. Letting go is the first step to making space. Space for what truly matters. A quiet morning, a phone call from someone you love, a plant blooming in your yard, a soft rain that eases your spirit, Because peace isn't some distant destination. It's what you begin to feel the moment you stop carrying what you no longer need. So what about you? What do you want to let go of, starting today? Which of these 8 truths made you realize you've been holding on too long? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because maybe, just maybe, your small story will give someone else the courage to live with a lighter heart tomorrow. And if this video touched something in you, if it found a quiet corner of your soul, click like so I know you're here with me. Share it with someone who may need these words. And if you haven't yet, I invite you to subscribe Golden Wise Elders and turn on the bell so that each week when you need someone to sit with you and speak gently of the simple sacred things, I'll be right here. Because life doesn't have to be perfect. It only needs to be true. And you, in your own way, are already enough.